Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, I'm Russ Riesinger. The number of COVID-19 cases in the United States soaring higher than any other country in the world, and that now includes one death here in Montana. No details have been released yet about where it took place or the age or gender of the person who died. We've also learned that 7 people are now hospitalized in the state. Now, according to the latest numbers from the Johns Hopkins Coronavirus Resource Center, there are now 85,653 cases of COVID-19 in the U.S. There have now been 1,290 deaths. That's up almost 250 from this time last night. Montana reported 19 new cases today to bring our total to 90. Wyoming has reported 56 cases. Montanans now being ordered by the governor to stay home.
I've determined that to protect public health and human safety, it's essential to the maximum extent possible that individuals stay at home or at their place of residence.
Governor Bullock saying that he made that decision after consulting with public health experts, healthcare providers, and EMS professionals about how best to stop the spread of the COVID virus from spiraling out of control here. Well, Montana's stay-at-home order goes into effect tomorrow night at the stroke of midnight. It extends through Friday, April 10th, 2 weeks. It means that people can only go out for essential services, so businesses that are deemed non-essential will now have to cease operations. People can still go outside and do outdoor recreation and activities as long as they practice social distancing. The governor is saying that Montanans must do more collectively to stop the spread of the virus.
I'm taking these measures today because we need to stay in front of this pandemic and slow the growth of infections so that our healthcare system is not overwhelmed. It's our frontline doctors and nurses and taking care of our friends and neighbors. And I'd rather be accused of overreacting than have a healthcare system overwhelmed and unable to help our most at-risk Montanans when they need it the most. I'd rather our doctors and our nurses and our healthcare professionals know that Montanans from all across our state have their backs.
Well, Bullock basing what is considered an essential worker on federal guidelines. That would include healthcare workers, law enforcement and public safety, food and agriculture. So grocery store workers, fast food workers would be considered essential. Energy, water and wastewater, transportation and logistics, so that would of course include truckers, public works, critical manufacturing, hazardous materials, financial services, chemical jobs, and defense industrial base workers. And you can find these federal guidelines in this story on our website, ktvq.com. There's also a number that employers can call if they have questions about whether they can stay open or need to close. That number is 1-800-755-6672. But again, all businesses considered non-essential are now being ordered to cease operations tomorrow night at midnight. Q2's David J. joining us now from the Q2 Newsroom. He has got more reaction to the governor's order to stay at home. David?
Well, Russ, business owners and workers have shown concern, doubt, and some who are ready to comply with the governor's directive. Gushon Salon and Spa in downtown Billings had already been slowing down. 10 self-employed workers have been taking extra time for sanitizing and cleaning. They have not been taking new clients and have kept to having 10 or fewer in the salon. And here are a few Facebook posts on the Q2 News page. One person said, "I'm really a small business owner and afraid for my future, but this is the right thing to do." Another one said that, how are people going to pay for food and rent? And another viewer mentioned just to stay calm, and we are early in the process. And one other said, how much more do you want to kill the economy? Meanwhile, Gushon Salon will be closing tomorrow evening.
We have elderly people coming into the salon and people that have compromised immune systems, and we certainly don't want anyone to be sick or catch anything. We are non-essential and we want to comply, and if everybody does their part, hopefully we can stop it quickly and then we can all just get back to our normal daily lives and everybody can be healthy and we won't risk anyone.
And Gushon Salon had already stopped the massage therapy and nail tech work after the county health officer came out with an order last week. Russ?
All right, thank you, David. Meanwhile, Billings Public School Superintendent Greg Upham says they will continue to progress as normal despite the stay-at-home order.
For us, we are determined to be an essential component under the Homeland Security document that the governor referenced in his directive. And so it's business as usual for us. We'll continue to offer education to our students in our current platforms. Our teachers are working their tails off getting materials together in dual platforms, the digital platform and then the traditional platform. Administrators are answering questions, and we have all support staff is doing whatever they're being asked to do. So it's all hands on deck.
Well, news of the impending order going into effect as stay-at-home and shelter-in-place, sending many people straight to the grocery store, it seems. This was the parking lot at Albertsons out in the Heights earlier this evening. Patrons told us there were long lines inside. Once again, we just want to remind you that grocery stores are considered essential. You can still go shopping for groceries. You can still go to health appointments and so forth. So they won't be closing. It's just businesses deemed non-essential that are being ordered to cease operations for 2 weeks. The Department of Labor says a record nearly 3.3 million Americans filed for unemployment benefits last week. That number up 3 million from the week before and crushes the previous record of 695,000 jobless claims. That was set way back in 1982. Michelle Evermore with the National Unemployment Law Project says it normally takes 2 to 3 weeks to process claims and payments, but with the massive spike in unemployment, those turn times could be delayed. The Senate stimulus bill, the largest aid package ever, will also help struggling workers and businesses during this time. It includes $1,200 checks for most Americans and additional money for laid-off workers. Well, despite the poor unemployment numbers, the stock market rose today with the Dow Jones gaining more than 1,300 points to close above 22,500. Much of that coming from optimism that the House will pass that huge stimulus bill tomorrow.
We're starting off by sending them very big checks. I think for a family of four, it's about $3,000. And we're taking care of our people. We're taking care of our workers. This was not, as I say, this was not a financial crisis. This was a health crisis, a medical crisis. We're going to take care of our people.
In a letter to the nation's governors, the president said he will categorize counties as high risk, medium risk, or low risk in an effort to encourage local leaders to reopen their businesses. Now this, as Montana is now closing all non-essential businesses. Well, it is a story we've been following all week. A group of 3 inventors here in Billings, including a neurosurgeon and local dentist, who quickly came up with a solution for the shortage of medical masks in our area. Since that first story aired here on Q2, tens of thousands of people have downloaded the file to produce masks to help those in need around the world. Q2's Samantha Sullivan has more.
We've had a fantastic community support with the mask, and we are taking donations from the community. We are performing our own quality control process on these. We are sanitizing them, and we're putting them together.
Employees at Billings Clinic assembling these 3D printed masks one by one, cutting and attaching elastic straps, adding padding and filters. The idea coming from a global need for medical supplies as fear of the coronavirus left shelves empty of items used in hospitals like the common surgical mask. Since publishing their design on Sunday, there have been at least 30,000 downloads of this design from countries all over the world.
We've heard from people in Scotland. We've heard from people all around the country. Yesterday we had phone calls from Orange County, California, from Seattle, from New York, from Michigan, from Florida, from Texas. So all around the world and all around our country. So we know there are thousands of people that are being affected by this, and we hope that this helps.
Dr. Richardson says hospitals hoping to print their own masks need to vet them internally and do their own research to make sure they can perform how they need them to.
If you're using a surgical mask filter patch, this functions as a surgical mask. If you wanted to use this as an N95 mask, you would have to do the appropriate testing with the appropriate patch on that and make sure that it functions in that intended purpose.
Since the initial models were printed, improvements have been made from suggestions of people all over the world, making the mask more comfortable and more effective.
This is about everybody being able to help themselves in a time of crisis and providing an idea that has served as the springboard for a lot of communities to do projects, to get people involved, to solve the problem.
Even with downloads all over the world, there is still a need for more of these masks here in our own community. Dr. Richardson has told me they've had plenty of people reach out with time and resources to make these masks for the medical professionals here in Billings, but they still need more of them, and they're asking anyone with the ability to 3D print or to donate resources to help if they can. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Sammy. And for more information on how you can help, look for this story on our website, ktvq.com. Well, Trailhead Spirits in Billings is among many Montana businesses forced to close its doors to prevent the spread of the coronavirus, and is now in the business of making hand sanitizer. A batch is already made, enough to fill 1,000 bottles, hopefully on its way soon to St. Vincent, Billings Clinic, Riverstone Health, and Bighorn Valley Health Center. Q2's Andrea Lutz reports Trailhead joins a variety of other Montana distilleries now making hand sanitizer, and they hope to duplicate their order by next week.
This is the laborious part of it.
Casey McGowan with Trailhead had to switch gears from what he knows so well.
It's not a difficult process, just a different process.
Going from perfecting a fine bottle of Montana-made whiskey to carefully crafting this hand sanitizer.
Probably the most difficult part of it has been the bottling. Obviously, we're not set up to bottle 8 ounce.
Trailhead is among many businesses forced to close to prevent the spread of the virus.
You know, we were sitting here 10 days ago basically being shut down, and we were out of business, and the thought process was, how are we going to survive a week? How are we going to survive 2 weeks? How are we going to survive 3 weeks? Oh my gosh.
However, distilleries across Montana came together to develop a plan, share recipes, and get business back on track to help.
Then this came along, and it's just kind of been overwhelming. We've been able to keep a few of the staff people on to work on this project.
Because as far as he knows, business isn't as usual. So innovation at such a trying time is what's left.
Bittersweet in a way. You know, obviously there's a lot of people going through some tough times as we were, and we felt it, and we know it's real. Fortunate to be in an industry that had the ability to adapt quickly and provide a tangible product in a place that it's very much needed at the current time given the state of the world.
And McGowan says his primary concern right now is getting those bottles of hand sanitizer to the healthcare industry, assisting in our local Billings hospitals. In Billings, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.
Thank you, Andrea. And McGowan also says the business is set to donate 50 cents from every bottle sold to grow the Billings TrailNet system. Well, still to come on tonight's 10 o'clock news, one Montana family pitching in to make sure truck drivers can keep smiling on the lonely roads. Plus, we're going to hear what is being done to protect the most vulnerable of populations during this challenging time. And in sports, a Montanan mushed her way through Alaska and came back with a top 3 finish. We'll be hearing from her a little later.
You're watching MTN News with Janelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Breen. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.